Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This YouTube video is going to be about the books I read in the month of July and also the books that I'm planning to pick up and read in the month of August. As many of you know, August is translation month, which means everyone in the book world is planning to pick up books that were translated by people from different languages or from their own country's languages. So feel free to join in and participate in Translation Month. You can also do women writer translations because this is also catching on and there is a new hashtag going which is the rage. I will link that in the description box down below. All the books that I speak about in this video will be linked in the description box down below and you can feel free to browse later on. I will start off by talking about the books that I read in July. I read close to 4 books in July and I'm extremely happy about the fact that I did because July was a pretty busy month for me and had a lot of things going on. Yay me for having read 4 books. So the first book that I read was A Promised Land by Khadija Mastoor. This is a book that has been translated from Urdu by Daisy Rockwell, who really provides a good analysis in the end as well. So this has a lot of questions for readers to think about in the end. It's a really intense book. It's about the lives of women during the partition, which frankly people haven't talked about enough. This talks about a girl called Sadija who finds herself alone with her father in a refugee camp right after the partition of India and Pakistan. She has to sort of come to terms with her situation. There aren't any relatives other than her father that she can rely on, and once her father passes away because of an illness, she ends up being taken away to a different house by this man called Nazim, who is also a landowner, and he's involved in a lot of politics and things like that. So what happens is she lives in his house and becomes sort of like a person who stays there, doesn't help much with the work, but then she gets to see the family life and how that plays out like during the partition. So what happens in this novel is the fact that while the political situation in a newly formed Pakistan is very unstable, you still see that a lot of women in the household, you have a servant named Taji who really goes through a lot of difficulties, and Sadija gets to witness all of that, and sort of we get to see things from her perspective as well as a woman, how she ends up marrying a person she doesn't really love and all of that. So it's really interesting. I highly recommend reading this because we don't have enough fiction about the partition, and this really deals with the subject really well, highlights a lot of interesting details about how there are a lot of political events happening and you can't deny the fact that the political events outside have not affected a family, which is the basic unit of society, modern society and any society. How the family life gets affected, how the lives of women in the family, who are kind of the people who keep things together, their lives are affected as well. The next book that I read last month was An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. This is my absolute one of my favorites for this year, that's for sure. This is written with beautiful prose by an African American author. She won the Women's Prize for Fiction, and this book is written really well. It's about a man and a woman who just recently got married. The husband gets falsely incarcerated and he's put to prison, and within 1.5 years of their newly married life, this happens, and the wife and him have to learn how to cope with this, and this definitely puts a strain on their marriage. He is suddenly released after a certain amount of years have passed, and they have to sort of pick things up again. So it's quite challenging for any couple to have to go through this sort of thing, and it deals with the trauma. It highlights issues of how African Americans are really not safe even today in the United States, and how you can be falsely incarcerated just like that for doing things. It's written in an epistolary manner, so there's a lot of exchanges between the husband and wife while he's in prison. So it's really interesting. I really love this. Definitely happy that I read it. The other 2 books I read were part of the Daniel Steele Readathon organized by Pan Macmillan India. So thank you, Pan Macmillan, for sending me these books. I first read Lost and Found, which is the new release. Daniel Steele is actually known for writing romance fiction, but she also writes about family life, and her novels are sometimes those that span across generations. She writes about historic events, so she fictionalizes all of that. And she writes about things that are very dramatic, like 2 twins separated at birth, a Jewish man falling in love with a Christian woman during the Second World War, and all of this, certain blasphemous things and all of that. Lost and Found deals with a slightly older woman as the protagonist, a woman in her middle age, and she ends up, finding a box of letters one day while cleaning her cupboard, and decides to revisit the past and revisit and figure out what the people how the people are, the ones who wrote the letters to her ex-lovers. She decides to go and meet them and sort of get a sense of closure because she's living alone. Her children are married and her husband is no more. So she wants to sort of, figure out what more she can do with her life and maybe find a companion in the process. So it deals more with the life of an older person and what that's like, and the challenges that one faces when it comes to living alone, and also talks about aging in general and how that affects a woman and all of that. So it's a very different sort of Daniel Steele, but definitely interesting to read. I also read In His Father's Footsteps, another Daniel Steele book, and since this is set during the Second World War and it begins in Buchenwald concentration camp, I definitely like books like this. It starts off describing the horrors of living in a concentration camp, and the two survivors, they decide to get married in order to get a visa to the United States. Both of them are Jewish, and once they move to the United States, they have to start life from scratch. It talks about the challenges of having to do something like that and the opportunities that are available to release prisoners in the United States. So then it spans across 2 generations because this couple ends up having a child, and that person grows up to become a very successful businessman, and it sort of deals with his family life as well. So if you're into something like into reading things like this, then I recommend this book. Those were the 4 books that I read in the month of July. As most of you know, August is translation month, and I have a few books that I would recommend. I am currently making my way through Kalele Sukuru Sasaki, which is a Murakami novel. This one is about a boy who makes friends with 2 girls and 2 boys, and he's the 5th person in this friend circle. He doesn't have a color in his name, whereas the other 4 have colors in their names. So he feels sort of like an outcast from the very beginning. They all start off to be really close during high school, and then things sort of take a turn when all of them decide to stay back in Nagoya, which is their hometown, and Sasaki decides to move out to Tokyo in order to pursue his education further and in a different stream from the rest of them. So because of this, he has to move away, and since he's invested so much in these friendships, and these friendships become like everything that he's ever identified himself has to do with these people, and he's sort of put himself in all of this, in this relationship. So it's like his identity is sort of unstable in that sense. Once he moves out, he realizes that he's losing something, even a part of himself. So it's turning out to be very interesting. I have only made my way through 30 pages, and I'm really sold, and I'm really liking this. So this one is what I'm currently reading, and definitely pick up Murakami because, translation month means you can read lots of Murakamis. The other book that I'm reading is a novel by Stefan Zweig, who is a German writer. This one's called Amok, and it's about a voyage. On a sweltering ocean liner traveling from India to Europe, a passenger tells his story, the tale of a doctor in the Dutch East Indies, torn between his duty and the pull of his emotions, a tale of power and maddening desire, of pride, shame, and a headlong flight into folly. I've heard a lot about Stefan Zweig, and this book is published by Pushkin Press, which is my favorite publisher because they translate a lot of books in different foreign languages to English. So I'm going to be reading this in the month of August. It's a small book, so I think I'll finish it pretty soon as well, and recommend this to you guys as well. Then we have Winter by Karl Ove Knausgaard, and this is translated from Norwegian. It has lovely illustrations. It is translated by a person named Ingvild Berke. It essentially deals with a series of essays or letters and short stories or anecdotes written by a father to his unborn child. So he tries to explain and make sense of the world for his child, so that when she grows up, she can look back and read these the information that he has to share in the form of stories that are very intriguing, about different aspects like fireworks and random things like the state of social class and all of that, and water, and just different abstract subjects. And it's a very reflective novel is what I've heard. It's part of a quartet, so this is the second book in the quartet, and there are still 3 other books that I would have to pick up in order to read all of them. So yeah, this is what I will be reading. These are the books I will be reading. These are the books I've read in July. Let me know if you've read any of these titles. If you're planning to read any books for translation month, comment about them in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing about the books that you're planning to read. Yeah, hope you liked this video. I will be coming back soon with more bookish content. Lots of bookish love. Bye!